Welcome back to another video. Finally, we're gonna have a chance to wrap up our entire little app where you can deposit money. I'm depositing $23 now. My balance was 100 and now I have $103. I deposit another $18 and now my balance was 103 and now I have 120 and I can withdraw the same thing. So far we kind of get at least a very simple basic things working, which is we always depositing $20 every single time or withdrawing $20 or every single time, but we want to withdraw something random. Today we can withdraw just a random number or whatever you guys want to do with your own coin logic. So in this case, what I'm going to do is, remember, this is the value that is being withdrawn. So I'm going to set up a very simple basic random value where we can kind of withdraw that. So I'm going to say, hey, here I'm going to set withdraw random value and I'm going to say math.floor and I'm going to use math.random to randomize that, and we're going to make it to a limit of 20, and we're going to say minimum 1 where we do not have 0 because we don't want to have 0, and we're going to take that random value and pass it for the deposit where we can if we're depositing money, it could be about a random number just to kind of get the app not always depositing $20, and I'm going to do the same thing for the withdrawal. So now if I save that and go back to the application, of course we have $100 and then we can click deposit. You see now it generates $6, and if I click deposit, it generates whatever that value is. If I click it again, it generates $1 this time. This one I know. Of course we generate $13, and then if I go again, it kind of generate 20, and the same thing for the withdrawal. Withdrawal one, it just generate 18, and if I withdraw again, it generate kind of 2. But remember, in our application we had like a very clear message that kind of show us exactly what we withdraw and what our balance was and what our current balance is. How can we get something like this within our application? Well, in order to get something like this, we're gonna need to come here somewhere. I'm gonna remove that console log. I'm gonna also remove this one right there. I'm just removing the console log. So right there, I'm gonna need to write a function. Okay, I'm gonna come here and need to write a very function. I'm gonna call this one transaction message. This is gonna be what shows the message of every single transaction to be displayed to the DOM. In this one right here, I'm gonna just add a couple of things. For example, I added very simple, very basic div just for you guys to kind of see what we're working on. Okay, so here's a very basic thing just for you guys to kind of see what I have right there. All right, so in this case here, I have a useReducer or whatever that is, and then here I'm gonna add the amount, which we're gonna take in a second and kind of guess what amount we're gonna be adding here. And then this is just to kind of bold the dollar. If you see in this example, so we need to add, for example, if we withdraw, we need to add it in bold. So that's what this is going to be. So you just whatever type of action you're gonna add here, and then your balance, whatever your balance was, this is what this is doing in here, guys, just in case you're asking. So the B tag is just to kind of bold it out, just in case that you guys were wondering. And then your balance is, and then again the B tag is just to kind of bold it out. Okay, so that's what we have here. All right, so how can we use this? Remember, in this case we have the same message for deposit, same message for withdrawal. So literally we want one function to work for both of them. Okay, the only thing we're going to be changing is the value that is being dynamic. One thing to note here is here you just withdraw, and if I go here, this word changes. So what I know is this function somewhere, it needs to know either we are withdrawing, just to kind of give you guys an example, or we are depositing money. So it needs to know that. The second is the value that comes with the withdrawal. All right, the value also that comes with the deposit, it also needs to be dynamic. And second is I'm gonna say amount, or I can say deposit amount, or deposit amount slash withdraw amount. Okay, a withdraw amount. So these are the two values that we want it to be dynamic. In this case, I'm just gonna pass this argument right there. So I'm going to pass money, which is going to be either one of those, which means, hey, whenever I invoke this function, whenever I call this function, that could be $20 deposit, or that could be $20 withdrawal. So if I call it twice, I could be like, hey, this one is a $20 deposit, and then this one is going to be a $20 withdrawal. So that function now is dynamic, which is great. And I can use that take total, and we're going to take the total again. Instead of minus this time, we're going to plus it, because remember, if we had $50, we're no longer going to have $50, we're going to have $20, which means we're going to need to find out what balance it was before it changed from 50 to 20. Now instead of subtracting, because if we subtract, it's just gonna keep going less, so we need to plus it to see what the value was, and we're gonna plus it with whatever money that we are withdrawn. So that might looks a little bit confusing, but all we're doing here is to calculate whatever the balance, previous balance. I can call it previous balance instead. I think that makes more sense. So we can use that value right there. So your balance was, and for the last one, now your balance is, you can literally guess that, which is just going to be the total. The total is going to be whatever their current balance is. So I just do state that total. And guess what? That's literally it. That's literally what this function is going to work. And I can kind of indent this a little bit just to kind of make things look nice. And how do we use it? How do we use this function? Of course, this is how we're gonna use them. What I can do in my case, I can start using them somewhere where I can show you. I can start calling this function, literally just copy this function the way it is here and kind of paste it right there. I'm gonna copy this one, the other one right there. I'm gonna do the same thing right there, and we can take a look and see what we have into our page. So now if I go back into the application just to kind of take a look and see what we have, of course we got something, which of course we got, hey, you just deposit $20, your balance was 80, and now you have $100. This is for the deposit. And of course you just withdraw $20, your balance was 100, and now you have this. And if I click this one, you got the idea. It's even adding it's the total's working fine, which is great, which is awesome, but we don't want this. It's happening at the same time, and that's not exactly what we want. We want a way to only see the deposit message when we click the deposit, and we want a way to only see the withdraw whenever we click on the withdraw. That's what we are looking for in our example. So how can we detect that we click on deposit to only show the deposit? Or how can we detect that we click withdraw when we click on withdraw to only show the withdraw message? That's the question. Well, we're going to go back to our code. In this case, this is where we're going to be coming into our data here. If you remember, before we added some initial state, there were two extra value that we set here called is deposit or is withdraw. And this is a way to tell us either or not that we are depositing or either or not we are withdrawing money. So what I'm going to do is when the action fire and we listening to deposit, again, remember this one is listening to deposit. I'm going to do a couple of things. I'm going to set the is deposit to true, which means, hey buddy, we are currently deposit. And then the is withdraw, we're going to set this one to false. And I'm going to literally copy the same thing. I'm going to come here when we are withdrawing, and you have the idea already. So if we are withdrawing, we are not deposit. So I'm going to set this one to false. You're going to set this one now to true. And ladies and gentlemen, believe it or not, this will update the state instantly based on the action that happened. And then we can kind of render the appropriate message as we need it. So how can we do that? Now we have the stu function. We don't need the stu function. Well, in order to use the stu function, this is what I'm going to be doing. So I'm going to copy this first function. I'm going to say, all right, is the state that is deposit if we are depositing, run this function, else then leave it as empty. And you have the idea for now. I'm going to do the same thing for this one. I'm going to say, are we within the withdraw mode? If we are within that withdraw mode, I'm going to go ahead and fire this function. If not, we're just going to leave this one as empty. And then let's take a look. And now check this out. Of course, we don't see anything because both of them is false. If you remember, by default within the initial state, both of them is false, which is exactly what we are expecting. However, if I go back here, when I click deposit, check it out. If I click deposit, we set the deposit to is true. And when that happens, check it out. And then this will fire and it will execute this function. And now you can kind of see the deposit message showed up. Okay. The only thing we don't want, I'm gonna move this function right below, right before the total right there. So right below right there. So this is where we're gonna be displaying. I think at this point we don't even need this message because the other one is including the total, so we can delete that. So this is where they're going to be. So now if I go back here, of course we have this, and if I click deposit, of course it would deposit $20. And if I click it again, we're kind of having something off going on here, right? So if I clicking, I keep depositing $20. What we really need is we want to know exactly the amount of money that we deposit. If you remember, there is a way within the reducer that we are keeping a track of that. So every single time that we deposit a money, there is something called deposit amount that we can leverage to give us exactly the amount of money that we deposit. And again, there is something called withdraw that will give us exactly the amount of money that we withdraw. So what I need to do in this case is wherever I have this function, I need to edit them to read the value from the state, which is right here. So I'm going to pick that value right there. So I'm going to say, hey, I'm going to use state deposit amount. And the same thing with here. I'm going to say deposit withdraw amount. Okay, so let's take a look. So now that should work as expected. So if I go back within my code and click deposit, of course, you can see now you just deposit $17. Your balance was $100. Now you're $117. If I click it again, your balance was $117. We just deposit $10. Now you are $20. And if I do the withdraw one, we no longer see the deposit. We see withdraw. We withdraw $19. Your balance was $120. And now you are at this balance. If I click it again, you can see here it's going in and on and on and on, which is really, really great. So at this point, we don't need this message because you can see here, it's showing your balance, your total balance is showing up twice. So I need to delete this message. But if I delete this code, check it out. I don't see anything. So somewhere, but if I click the button, I will see it. I don't need that. Somehow I need a way to detect that, hey, We haven't deposited anything at all. We haven't withdraw anything, because if we do withdraw, we're gonna see the total balance and everything, right? However, there's two ways that we can solve this problem. The first way we can solve this problem could be a little bit complicated. So wherever we have this little message right there, we're gonna detect that, hey, we haven't deposit, we haven't withdraw. So whenever we haven't withdraw, then we're gonna keep this message. So we're gonna say A is deposit, we're gonna say is deposit and is withdraw. Then whenever that is the case, we're gonna fire this message, else we're gonna not show this message. However, remember, those two things are coming from the state, so I need to do state. That's why it's yelling at me. So if I do state that is deposit, if I do that and save this, don't worry, there is an easy way that we're gonna do that, and I'm gonna show you that easy way. I just want to show you guys the different ways we could have factored this. Okay, so if I do that one here, and let's take a look, you see it still didn't show up because we expecting for is deposit to be true. And remember, by default, aka by default, they are false, okay, when you first started. So I'm gonna need to turn this one into checking for false instead of true. So I'm gonna say, all right, when the deposit is false and then the withdraw is false, then I want to show that one. And whenever any one of them turn to true, I'm just gonna hide this message. So let's see now. And boom, there you go, your total balance is $100. And if I click this one, it completely disappears and I no longer see it. I'm seeing whatever I'm doing display. The other way that might be the easiest, you can just move this thing here. We can just move that message in there instead. So I just remove this one and I can say, hey, instead of now, I can say your coin balance is, and that message will always be displayed either or not the page just load or something change. You see now, when I refresh the page, your coin balance is, and if I refresh it again, you just deposit this, your balance is, and now your coin balance is 110. Deposit again, the same thing, that message is always there. Now, whichever way you want to go with it, that is definitely going to be up to you. Just want to show you guys different option on how you can do that. And believe it or not, our application is fully working. But if we take a look at the code, it's kind of a little bit messy, right? And what I mean by this is there are things that can definitely be improved. This is just long, and people, we have to scroll to see things. So the next video, we're gonna do a little bit of refactor just to kind of simplify things for you in a way that anybody can clearly see what's happening. So see you in the next video.